Men more quickly forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. Power, once spoken away, is rarely reclaimed. Words are weapons, yet most people swing them carelessly, hacking at the air until they exhaust themselves and leave their defenses open. In war, the first mistake is revealing your position too soon. In life, the same rule applies. You lose ground not by what others take from you, but by what you give away in your rush to explain, defend, or prove yourself. Imagine a battlefield of words. Every social setting becomes a clash of voices. Each soldier shouting louder, each one believing volume will win the war. But the truth is inverted. The more noise you make, the more targets you reveal. You cannot fight 10 battles at once, yet that is what over-speaking forces you into. The compulsion to fill silence is not strength, it is leakage. You bleed power every time you answer too quickly, reveal too much, or attempt to cover every angle with your voice. History has always favored those who mastered the weapon of silence. Kings and generals learned that a pause unsettles more than a speech. The negotiator who lets silence hang forces the other to reveal his desperation. The predator that waits in stillness builds pressure until the prey breaks. Napoleon often listened far longer than he spoke, letting others expose their weaknesses before he chose a single decisive word. In every age, silence has served as both armor and blade. Psychology confirms what strategy already knew. People who talk excessively are rated as less competent and less confident. Restraint projects control. Measured speech signals authority. A leader who speaks little but decisively is obeyed, while the one who floods the room with explanations is quietly dismissed. Even in simple disagreement, the silent stance holds power. When someone argues recklessly, resist the urge to meet noise with noise. Hold your ground, keep your composure, and speak one calm line when it matters. The storm will burn itself out against your stillness. Control your tongue as you would control a sword. Do not swing wildly. Conserve force. Let silence be your fortress and your trap. Every word you withhold strengthens the words you eventually choose. Remember this line and let it guide you. Silence cuts deeper than noise. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. These words from Machiavelli cut to the heart of leadership, and they expose why your tongue must be ruled like a kingdom. Your mind is the throne. Every word you release is a decree. Speak carelessly, and you weaken the crown. Speak with discipline, and your authority hardens like stone. History offers painful reminders. Louis XVI, the last king of France before the Revolution, often revealed uncertainty in public and contradicted himself in private councils. His indecision and reckless words drained the perception of his authority. By speaking without control, he surrendered the mystique of the crown. His kingdom collapsed not only from external pressures, but from the erosion of confidence caused by his own mouth. A ruler who talks too freely strips away the aura that holds power together. The same principle applies inwardly. Your mind is a court filled with voices. But not all voices deserve the throne. The inner chatter that drives you to justify yourself, to argue with shadows, to replay every slight. This is the noise that weakens sovereignty. Command begins with inner silence. When you master self-dialogue, when you can calm the restless voice inside, you reclaim the seat of power. Psychology has long shown that those who can regulate internal speech regulate behavior more effectively. What you think becomes how you act, and what you say becomes how you are judged. Therefore, silence of thought breeds silence of tongue, and both secure authority. Guard your throne as you would guard a fortress. Not every messenger is allowed inside, and not every petition deserves an answer. Treat words like gold coins. not like loose scraps. Spend them only when they build walls higher or sharpen weapons stronger. Every time you resist the impulse to fill space with needless talk, you reinforce the walls of your fortress. Others cannot breach what they cannot see. When disagreement arises, the undisciplined mind spills words to defend every angle. A disciplined ruler does not. If someone challenges you with aggression, hold your stillness. Let them expose themselves with noise, then answer with a single decisive line, spoken slowly, carrying the weight of command. The contrast between their flood and your measured drop makes clear who holds the throne. Do not forget, weak rulers seek validation through chatter. Strong rulers maintain command through silence. Rule your tongue, and you rule your kingdom. Remember the mantra, every word is a decree. The morning is the battlefield where victory or defeat is decided before the world even sees you. At dawn, the enemy is not outside but within. The urge to fill the air with noise, the compulsion to scroll, to chatter, to begin the day in weakness. If you fail to command the first hour, your tongue becomes your master instead of your servant. The generals of history understood this. They did not begin their campaigns with idle words. They began with silence, reflection, and strategy. Napoleon rose early to review reports in solitude. Eisenhower, before D-Day, spent long moments in silence before facing his commanders. They knew that once the noise of war began, the clarity of silence would be gone. To win the day, you must secure silence before dawn. Modern life trains the opposite. The phone alarm rings, and within seconds, the battlefield is flooded. Notifications, conversations, and trivial words pour in before you have drawn your first breath with intent. This addiction to noise corrodes discipline. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They rush to escape it with radio podcasts or endless talking. Yet the one who cannot face silence alone cannot hold power in public. Every scroll, every word spent aimlessly in the first hour leaks control. You surrender the throne of the day before you even leave your bed. Discipline begins by withholding. Restraint is a weapon sharper than any sword. Psychology shows that delaying impulses strengthens self-regulation. The act of holding back, of choosing not to react immediately, is like a soldier drilling with heavy armor. It builds endurance and precision. Start with the smallest command. Do not speak immediately upon waking. Do not explain. Do not justify. Do not fill space with commentary. Let your silence harden like steel before you release a single word. That pause is not emptiness. It is the sharpening of your spear. Guard the first hour of the morning as if it were the gates of your fortress. Do not allow intruders in the form of meaningless words or endless noise. The battlefield is set by ritual. Rise, breathe, hold silence. Let your thoughts settle before you decree your first command. When you finally speak, let it be intentional, not reactive. This small act distinguishes the ruler from the ruled. Do not begin your day as a servant to noise. Begin as a commander who dictates the terms. Remember the mantra, silence before dawn is victory before battle. Stillness is not weakness. It is the unsheathed blade you cannot see until it cuts. In every arena where power is contested, silence is not passive. It is an active strike, sharper than the loudest speech. Those who mistake noise for dominance give away their position before the battle has even begun. Those who understand the force of stillness hold the field without moving a step. In negotiation, silence is one of the most devastating weapons. When terms are placed on the table, the one who rushes to fill the pause reveals need, fear, or desperation. Business leaders know this. Military commanders know this. In tense discussions, the first voice to break silence usually yields ground. He who speaks last dictates the terms because he lets the opponent show their cards first. Imagine sitting across from someone who hurls argument after argument, their words spilling like arrows without aim. If you remain calm, unmoved, and wait, they begin negotiating with themselves. Their silence becomes unbearable, and to escape it, they concede, hold silence, and you command the room. Nature confirms what strategy already teaches. The predator that stalks does not roar before the strike. The lion crouches in grass. The hawk circles silently above. Their stillness builds unbearable pressure on prey, who senses danger without seeing it. It is not noise that creates fear, it is silence. In the human world, the effect is no different. When you maintain composure and withhold unnecessary words, people project their own fears into the void. They imagine what you might say or what you might do, and in that imagination, you gain control. Stillness forces others to reveal themselves, while you remain concealed. The battlefield itself proves the point. Commanders know that a pause at the right moment shifts the tide of war. Soldiers move, then stop. The silence between volleys rattles nerves more than constant noise. A general who halts an advance for just a moment lets dread build in the enemy ranks, then strikes when tension is at its peak. Stillness is not absence. It is compression, storing energy until the release is unavoidable and devastating. To apply this power, discipline your instinct to fill gaps. Do not rescue others from silence. Do not explain when nothing needs defending. When challenged in a meeting or conversation, resist the reflex to answer immediately. Let the pause do the work for you. In one example, when a colleague sharply questioned a proposal, the leader did not fire back with justification. He waited. The silence stretched. The challenger, uncomfortable, softened his tone and answered his own objection. Authority was preserved not by argument, but by stillness. Train yourself to value silence as pressure, not emptiness. Recognize that words spent recklessly are like soldiers wasted in unplanned skirmishes. Conserve your forces. Make the pause your ally. Let others underestimate you because you do not fill the air. When you finally choose to move, to speak, to strike, it will land with amplified force. Do not confuse silence with surrender. It is the weapon hidden in the sheath, waiting for the right moment to cut. Remember the mantra, nothing strikes harder than silence. War is not won by abundance. It is won by precision. The same principle governs speech. Every careless word is a soldier sent to die without purpose. To master speech, you must become ruthless, cutting away the useless until only what strikes remains. The excess drains power. The essential commands it. The art of war has always demanded discipline of the economy. Sun Tzu wrote that the skillful fighter defeats his enemy without waste, conserving strength for decisive blows. Words are no different. When you scatter them carelessly, you exhaust your power before the battle truly begins. When you strip speech to its sharpest edge, each phrase carries the weight of an entire campaign. To cut the useless is not cruelty. It is efficient. It is survival. Psychology confirms the same truth. Every unnecessary word reveals something about you: position, insecurity, impatience. In conversations where power is balanced, even a slight reveal can tilt the field. The more you speak, the more you are read. The less you speak, the more you remain unreadable. In negotiation, in conflict, in leadership, words should be treated as movements on a battlefield. Move carelessly, and you expose your flank. Move with restraint, and you remain untouchable. Consider the effect of trimming waste in your own language. Weak, I just think maybe this could work. Strong, this will work. Weak, I don't know if this is right, but strong, here is the answer. Weak words are like scattered infantry, making noise but achieving nothing. Strong words are like concentrated fire, piercing armor. Train yourself to recognize when your own speech leaks power. Cut hesitation, cut apology, cut noise. Preserve only what delivers impact. Silence is not emptiness, it is filtration. Just as clear water emerges when the mud settles, clarity of thought and authority of presence emerge when noise dies. When you withhold unnecessary speech, what remains is distilled. You begin to hear yourself more clearly. Others hear you more clearly. They may not always agree, but they will listen, because the absence of excess makes what you do say impossible to ignore. Picture a heated exchange where two colleagues argue in circles, their words multiplying, volume rising. You intervene not with a flood of words, but with a single decisive sentence delivered after silence. The room halts. The chaos stopped, not because you overwhelmed them with volume, but because you cut through noise with clarity. This is not dominance through force, it is authority through restraint. Discipline yourself as an assassin disciplines his blade. He does not strike wildly, he strikes once, cleanly, with precision. Every word you allow to live should serve a function. If it does not, eliminate it without hesitation. Guard your speech as you would guard your fortress. Each word is a gate opened or closed. Cut the filler that clouds your authority. Remove the qualifiers that weaken your conviction. Eliminate the noise that distracts from your meaning. Win not by speaking more, but by speaking less, sharper. Remember the command, kill the useless words. True command is not a flood of words. It is the restraint to let silence carry weight until the few words you do speak fall like iron. Leaders throughout history have known this. Alexander the Great inspired armies not by drowning them in speeches, but by brief commands delivered with certainty. Napoleon, famed for both brilliance and audacity, kept his addresses short, sharp, and decisive. In both cases, the authority came not from length, but from the gravity behind every phrase. Think of leadership as the throne room of war. The general who shouts endlessly at his troops weakens himself. The one who speaks rarely, yet speaks with force, makes men lean in to hear him. His silence commands more than his voice. This principle extends far beyond the battlefield. In boardrooms, courts, or politics, power is not signaled by the abundance of speech, but by the discipline to withhold it until the exact moment it will strike hardest. Words delivered sparingly are treated as decrees. The courtroom is the clearest example. A judge does not argue endlessly with counsel. He waits, listens, and then issues a sentence that shifts the entire outcome. The lawyer who rambles risks losing the jury. The one who trims to the essentials gains ground. In the chambers of power, the economy of language defines authority. To speak less is not a weakness. It is a calculation. It is a mastery of timing. Psychology reveals why silence creates mystique. The human mind is drawn to fill gaps. When you withhold words, others project meaning onto your silence. They wonder what you think. They assume depth. This effect is why reserved individuals often appear more powerful than they are. Silence acts as armor, concealing weaknesses while amplifying strength. The fewer you reveal, the harder it is to be read, and the more influence your eventual words exert. Imagine a meeting where two voices clash, filling the air with noise. Both argue, each piling words upon words. You sit back, still, measured. When they pause, you speak a single, clear sentence. The dispute ends. You did not defeat them with volume, you defeated them with weight. This is the silence of leaders. Not passivity, but restraint sharpened into command. Train yourself to master this mask. Do not rush to fill the silence. Let it serve you. Do not over-explain. Speak only what advances your position. Do not answer every challenge with defense. Sometimes the most commanding reply is stillness. Weak. That's not fair. Let me explain why. Strong. I've given my answer. Weak. I think we should probably consider. Strong. We will consider this. Each exchange either strengthens or dilutes the throne you sit upon. Authority is a stage where every move is amplified. If you waste movements, you erode your own presence. If you preserve them, each one expands in impact. Think of silence as the heavy crown of command. Wear it without fidgeting, without nervous chatter, without surrender to insecurity. Then, when you finally choose to speak, the weight of your words is multiplied. You are not tasked with endless speech. You are tasked with carrying the mask of command. Hold it firmly. Do not let noise strip you of mystique. Do not let compulsion drive you into weakness. Lead with silence, break it with precision, and rule through presence more than volume. Remember the Li. The fewer the words, the heavier they fall. The greatest threat to your command is not another's voice, but your own restless tongue. The impulse to speak without discipline is the crack in your armor. Every wasted word is a self-inflicted wound, bleeding away your authority before an enemy even lifts a blade. The assassin lives inside you, and his weapon is impulse. To master yourself, you must kill this inner enemy before it strikes. Psychology makes it clear. The ability to delay response is the root of power. When you feel the urge to fill silence, to blurt, to defend, stop. The pause is where strength is built. Delaying words creates space for choice, for judgment, for precision. Impulses demand immediacy, but mastery demands control. Each time you withhold, you train the mind like a blade, sharpening it through restraint. This is not suppression, it is a strategy. The assassin's creed is simple: never strike unless the blow is certain. Apply this to speech. If words will not serve your position, hold them. If words will dilute your mystique, kill them. If words risk revealing what should remain concealed, bury them. Imagine every sentence as a dagger. The reckless fighter slashes wildly, exhausting himself, exposing openings. The assassin waits in the shadows, watching, choosing the exact second to move. One strike ends the battle. One sentence can end the debate. The modern world tempts you to reveal everything. Social platforms reward constant commentary. Meetings reward those who fill the air. But compulsive talkers expose themselves as prey. The more they say, the more others learn of their weaknesses, their doubts, their inconsistencies. They reveal strategy without realizing it. They open themselves to manipulation by enemies who simply listen. In war, the general who reveals his plans at every turn loses before the battle begins. In life, the one who cannot stop speaking erodes trust and respect. Train yourself as the inner assassin. When provoked, do not swing wildly with explanations. When challenged, do not rush into defensive chatter. Kill the impulse before it escapes. Weak? That's not what I meant. Let me rephrase. Strong. My meaning was clear. Weak? I just feel like maybe. Strong. This is my position. Each swap is a dagger concealed until needed. Picture a disagreement at work. Two colleagues argue loudly, each scrambling for dominance. One turns to you, expecting your participation. Instead of rushing to join the fray, you pause, let silence harden the air, then deliver a single measured line. We will decide based on evidence, not emotion. The noise collapses. You did not wrestle in the mud. You executed the strike that ended it. That is the discipline of the assassin. No wasted motion, no wasted word. This discipline must be practiced daily. Count the moments when silence would have served you better than speech. Retrain your reflexes. Cut the compulsion at the root. carry silence like a concealed weapon, only drawn when the outcome is assured. The one who kills his own impulse first becomes untouchable by others. Remember this law of power. Every time you speak without purpose, you betray yourself. Every time you withhold, you grow sharper. Do not be the prey who chatters until trapped. Be the assassin whose silence terrifies until the strike. Kill the impulse, or it will kill you. There are two wolves within you. One howls to be heard, desperate to prove itself. The other waits in silence, conserving its strength for the decisive strike. The first grows weaker with every wasted sound. The second grows sharper with every moment it restrains itself. Power is built not in noise, but in patience. Feed the wolf that waits. Silence is hunger. When you hold your tongue, you create a tension that sharpens you. Just as a predator becomes more lethal when it has gone without food, you become more precise when you do not rush to fill the air. That hunger disciplines you. It forces your words to be chosen with care. The wolf that starves learns to strike only when success is assured. In the same way, each pause, each refusal to speak without purpose, hones your influence. Your restraint is your edge. In human dynamics, silence often carries more weight than speech. People are conditioned to fill empty space. When you withhold, others scramble to interpret your stillness. They project strength onto you because silence suggests control. Social psychology shows that those who speak less are frequently perceived as more confident and more powerful. Just as in the wild, the wolf that watches is more feared than the one that makes the most noise. Fear is not built on volume, but on the unknown. When others cannot predict your next move, they tread carefully. Think of group dynamics as a pack. In nature, the leader is not always the loudest. Wolves follow the one whose presence commands respect, not the one who wastes energy howling. In human groups, it is often the quiet observer whose rare words guide the direction. People trust those who do not seem desperate to be heard. They follow the one who does not compete for attention, but earns it through authority. By speaking less, you create scarcity, and scarcity makes your words more valuable. Consider a meeting where voices clash. One colleague dominates with constant interruptions. Another defends himself with endless explanations. The pack turns restless. You sit silent, listening, measuring the room. Then, at the right moment, you cut through the noise with one line. Let's return to what actually matters. The room shifts. The noise collapses. Authority belongs to the wolf who waited, not the ones who howled. To apply this discipline, treat silence as a weapon. Resist the urge to explain yourself when none is needed. Kill the compulsion to argue point for point. Weak. I think what I'm trying to say is strong. Here is my decision. Weak. Maybe I'm wrong, but strong. This is the direction. Each adjustment feeds the wolf that waits, not the one that howls. Every interaction is a test of which wolf you feed. The more you give in to noise, the weaker you grow. The more you cultivate silence, the more others feel the weight of your presence. Waiting sharpens the strike. Restraint builds fear, and fear, as Machiavelli warned, often commands more loyalty than love. Do not starve your power by feeding the wrong wolf. Keep your silence. Guard it. Let it grow hungrier, sharper, deadlier. When you finally speak, let your words land like fangs on the throat of the moment. Feed the wolf that waits. Life is a chessboard. Every person you deal with is a piece in motion. Every conversation a turn. Every silence a potential advantage. Announcing your moves before you make them is the fastest way to hand your strategy to the opponent. Chess masters never reveal their intentions in words. They do not boast about a coming sacrifice. nor do they explain how they plan to trap the king. They act. Their silence is not emptiness, it is protection. You must approach your life in the same way. Psychological warfare thrives on uncertainty. Silence denies your opponent the ability to predict your moves. When people cannot read your position, they become cautious, they hesitate, they wonder whether your next action will expose them. In many cases, the fear of the unknown is stronger than the certainty of conflict. By withholding your intentions, you compel others to waste energy second-guessing you. Their mind burns while yours remains steady. The quiet player controls the game because others are too distracted by what they cannot see. The cost of disclosure is heavy. Every word you reveal about your strategy is a step surrendered. Once spoken, you cannot take it back. Even if you trust the listener, words travel. They dilute your advantage. Modern life punishes openness in strategy. Projects are undermined, opportunities are stolen, and influence is eroded the moment you broadcast too much. Silence is not about secrecy for its own sake. It is about preserving leverage until the time to act. Picture a workplace conflict. A colleague presses you in front of others, demanding to know your next step. If you respond defensively, you reveal your hand and lose control. But if you pause, hold your ground, and calmly reply, you'll see when the time is right. The pressure reverses, the board shifts in your favor. You did not argue, you positioned yourself. That is the discipline of silence, making your opponent move before they understand the terrain. To master this, enforce strict control over your speech. Do not announce intentions, demonstrate them. Weak? I'm going to start leading this project. Strong? The project begins with this action. Weak? I plan to confront him tomorrow. Strong? I will address it when I choose. Each adjustment removes unnecessary disclosure and reinforces authority. The strongest leaders, like the strongest chess players, know that power is measured in moves, not words. Every time you restrain your tongue, you conserve energy for the board itself. Every time you reveal less, you expand the zone of uncertainty around you, and every time you act without pre-announcing, you sharpen the impact of your presence. Do not hand over your strategy in speech. Guard it as a king guards his last escape square. Let your silence build tension. Let your actions define the game. Speak less, move more. Silence is your strongest move. The tongue is the weakest soldier in your army. It betrays you when undisciplined, leaking secrets, scattering strength, and surrendering initiative. To rule yourself, you must chain it. You must train it as a warrior trains his blade through ritual repetition and restraint. Without discipline of the tongue, the throne of self-mastery collapses. The ancients knew this truth. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, practiced silence not as weakness, but as command. They spoke only when necessary, cutting away excess words the way a general cuts away weak formations. Silence was their training ground. They treated every unnecessary sentence as a breach in the walls of the city they defended. You must adopt the same vigilance. Speak only when the words add weight. Leave the rest to die unspoken. The first ritual is the pause. Before answering, stop. Count a few beats, even in the pressure of conversation. This is not hesitation, it is command. Psychologists note that delayed speech shifts the power dynamic. It denies the other person instant access to your thoughts. It also gives you space to measure your words. A soldier who fires too quickly exposes his position. A soldier who waits chooses the perfect moment. In daily life, that pause is your shield. This pause can be tested in small battles. Imagine someone challenges you in a meeting, pressing you for a quick answer. The undisciplined tongue rushes to defend itself, spilling half-formed replies. The disciplined tongue waits. You look at them calmly, breathe, and then deliver a short, decisive line. The room feels the weight of silence before you speak, and your control is amplified. This is leadership born of restraint. The second ritual is deliberate withholding. Practice silence in conversations where you would normally rush to fill the air. If someone reveals their opinion, resist the urge to mirror back your own immediately. Hold. Let them expand while you sharpen your observation. In many cases, their extra words reveal more than they intended. Your silence becomes a weapon. Subtle, patient, unyielding. The third ritual is repetition. Discipline of the tongue is like a martial art. No master is formed by theory. Only endless training engraves the habit into instinct. Each time you resist the temptation to speak, you strengthen the chain. Each time you pause, you harden the armor. Every repetition is a drill on the battlefield of your own impulses. Over months, silence becomes second nature, not struggle. To accelerate this mastery, set personal boundaries. Do not explain every decision. Do not justify every move. Weak, I'm sorry, I just thought maybe this could work. Strong, this is the direction I've chosen. Weak, I'll try to handle it if that's okay. Strong, I will handle it. By stripping away the weak frame, you anchor yourself in sovereignty. Treat your tongue as the last weapon to be drawn. Do not let it wander. Do not let it strike without command. When you learn to keep it chained, your presence becomes heavier, your will sharper, your influence undeniable. What others waste in chatter, you save as power. The general who restrains his troops until the exact moment of engagement wins more wars than the one who charges recklessly. This is the Iron Will ritual. Silence as practice, pause as power, repetition as mastery. Bind your tongue until it obeys you without rebellion. Let your words be steel drawn only when necessary. And when you finally speak, let your voice strike like a blade unsheathed at the perfect time. He who masters silence rules himself. Words are weapons, and the one who controls their release commands the field. Manipulators thrive on drawing you into speech. They press, they probe, they bait because every word you surrender becomes a stone. They hurl back at your fortress. When you fall silent, you deny them the tools they need. Their strategies collapse because they depend on extracting language to steer your emotions. Silence, then, is not emptiness. It is armor. It is the refusal to give an enemy steel for his sword. Think of silence as the walls of a fortress. A throne surrounded by stone cannot be reached by arrows or lies. Each word withheld is another brick. Each pause is another layer of defense. The fortress does not chase intruders. It does not explain itself. It simply stands. From within, the ruler chooses when to open the gates, when to let words pass, and when to keep them sealed. By embracing this discipline, you remove yourself from easy reach. The manipulator must exhaust himself outside your walls, hurling stones at stone. Modern negotiations prove the same principle. Silence unsettles. In a boardroom, the side that speaks less often gains advantage. Imagine a price offered. The inexperienced rush to counter, to fill the air with justifications. The experienced negotiator waits. Seconds stretch. The pressure mounts on the other party, who begins adjusting, conceding, or explaining too much. The fortress of silence bends their will without a single attack. The same power holds in daily life. When you resist the urge to answer instantly, you force others to reveal themselves. Even in disagreement, silence wins. Picture someone pushing against your decision, expecting you to argue. Instead of reacting, you hold calm stillness. You let their words echo unanswered for a moment. Then you deliver a short, precise line. This is final. The absence of excess speech makes the statement unshakable. They may protest, but they cannot penetrate the wall you've built. You did not meet fire with fire. You let their flame burn out against stone. To master this fortress, remember 3 tactics. First, deny manipulators weapons. When pressured, speak less. Give no unnecessary detail. Second, use silence as negotiation. In conflict or bargaining, let the pause do the work. Third, stay disciplined. Every time you resist the compulsion to explain yourself, you lay another stone on the wall. Over time, your presence becomes untouchable. Weak. I just want to explain why I did this. Strong. This is the choice I've made. Weak. I'm not sure, but maybe we could. Strong. Here is my position. Weakness spills words. Strength guards them. You must become a fortress in a noisy world. Do not let every hand pull at your defenses. Do not let every question force open your gates. The ruler who speaks only by choice cannot be bent. The fortress of silence is not coldness, it is and command is the core of freedom. Silence is the throne you build to rule yourself. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Fear in this sense is not cruelty, it is the weight. It is the unmistakable gravity of a voice that cuts through noise and demands attention. You do not build such a voice by speaking constantly. You build it by restraint, by silence, by withholding until the moment when sound becomes thunder. Words are like weapons of last resort. If you use them carelessly, they lose their terror. If you save them, they strike like steel against glass, impossible to ignore. Imagine words as nuclear weapons. The more frequently they are deployed, the less power they hold. If you argue at every small provocation, your words are paper bullets. But if you stay silent through storms, then when you finally speak, the silence shatters. Everyone listens, not because you begged for attention, but because you commanded it through scarcity. Restraint transforms ordinary speech into a decisive blow. Speak less, and each word becomes sharper. Speak rarely, and each sentence becomes unanswerable. Consider the throne room. The leader who fills the air with chatter soon erodes authority. The one who remains silent until all others have spoken holds the strongest ground. History is filled with accounts of rulers, generals and negotiators whose power came not from constant explanation, but from decisive brevity. In council, those who waited forced others to reveal themselves. By the time they spoke, their words cut through the confusion like a sword. You must study this pattern. Leaders do not waste their voice. They ration it like gold. In psychology, silence creates tension. Tension compels focus. When you hold your silence, people lean in, waiting. Their anticipation gives your voice power before it even leaves your mouth. This is why silence is not weakness. It is preparation. It is the sharpening of a blade. Transformation occurs when you understand that silence is not absence. It is pressure, and when you finally release words, that pressure explodes. Picture a negotiation where demands clash. The other side raises their voice, pushing aggressively. You sit still, calm, unmoved. You let the noise bounce off your walls. Then, at the exact moment when impatience peaks, you speak. You deliver one line, firm and final. This is my position. The silence before made the sentence land with force. They can argue, but the ground has shifted. You did not meet their storm with another storm. You became the mountain that redirected it. Your task is simple. Guard your voice as a weapon of sovereignty. Do not spill it in every exchange. Withhold until necessary. Then speak with precision, like a general ordering one strike to end the battle. Weak. I just hope you understand my side. Strong. This is the decision. Weak. Maybe we can think about it again. Strong. The matter is closed. Weakness negotiates with words. Strength closes with silence, then ends with command. You are not meant to vanish into muteness. You are meant to ascend into final form, the voice of kings. Silence builds the throne. Silence raises the walls. Silence gathers power around you. But when you finally choose to break it, when you open your mouth, your words must fall like iron, shaping the field, ending the debate, setting the course. That is the voice of command. That is the voice of sovereignty. And that is the final form. Speak rarely, and when you do, rule. Control of the tongue is control of the throne. Every battle is first fought in silence before words are spoken. The one who masters restraint holds the battlefield, while the one who spills speech carelessly gives away their ground. This is the vow. Speak less. Guard your tongue as you would guard your crown. A single reckless sentence can surrender your advantage, while silence preserves it. When you withhold, you deny the enemy knowledge. When you reveal, you do so with precision, striking only when the outcome is certain. The modern world tempts you to explain, justify, and narrate every thought. Yet in war, the general who explains his plan to the entire camp loses before the fight begins. The same is true in daily conflict. Stop explaining yourself. Stop scattering your power with endless words. The person who insists on being understood is already weak. The one who acts without pleading, without apology, holds command. Winning often requires fewer sentences and more decisive moves. Picture a disagreement. One voice rises, demanding reasons. Another grows restless, pushing for explanations. You stay calm. You do not rush to fill the air. Finally you say, steady and measured. This is the decision. The silence before made the line land like stone. There is no debate left, because you did not join their scramble. You closed the door with authority. Weak. I just wanted you to know why. Strong. It is settled. Weak. I hope this makes sense. Strong. This is final. Your control of language is your control of outcomes. Every word must be a weapon, or it must not exist. That is the oath. If it does not strike, do not release it. If it does not carry weight, let silence reign instead. With each passing day, cut away the unnecessary, strip speech down to its essence. Speak to command, not to plead. Speak to end, not to prolong. Restrain yourself till you no longer bleed power through excess. The oath of silence is the oath of sovereignty. Keep it, and you will not need to shout. Break it, and you will beg to be heard. Win by silence, rule by words withheld.